as doing the Working Journey, Andrew is a global ambassador for the Global Eco Village Network as well. We've only just found out today 110 million people around the world are part of this, part of a movement designed to actually create a more connected, more considerate world. And that's some of the work that Andrew does as well as being our managing partner. So I'd like to introduce Andrew again.
I must say I really do enjoy coming to Adelaide. There's lots of familiar faces and friends, and so it's a good opportunity to catch up and network. So I thought I'm going to give you, I haven't really prepared a presentation, but I thought I'd give you a general talk. I thought it was my fault, that's okay. I thought I'd give you a general talk about things that are in my mind at the moment, and how they link to South Australia and how they link to really big things that are happening. You know, civilization's gone through big waves of change, and the really big one was the Industrial Revolution, where we had a whole lot of things that happened. We came to live in cities, we all had a nuclear family, we had a job, and we had a car. It was a really standard way of working. We are on the cusp of another huge change coming at us. And it's a really fundamental shift. And in 50 years' time, we're going to be living in a world we're not going to recognize. And there's good and there's bad news attached to that. So I want to just step back a little bit, and I actually thought what I might do, is this talk, I've got a very brief, so I'm going to go quite quickly, is small is big and big is small. So you know in Requisite, we deal with complexity. We structure organizations to deal with ambiguity and uncertainty. And it's been a very good, powerful model. And we're now busy with a restructure on a global plane. And I'm very interested in, I'm seeing two parts to this now. So you know when we talk about levels of work, themes of work, we have two measurements of complexity. One of them is a unique value add. Each work theme adds a unique value add. And the other less popular measure of complexity is time span, the amount of time that elapses before you can see the result of your most complex decision. So we're working with this organization who is essentially a level 6 company. So it's a corporate citizenship. It's got, if you go down to the actual definitions about it, it coordinates a number of unified systems in a global context. A unified system would be a full company. So it's got companies registered in different stock exchanges, etc. And the CEO does all the things that a level 6 CEO should do. They're represented in different international bodies, they're represented in different national bodies, they do all the right things. So we would be happy to benchmark and say, that's a corporate citizenship company, there should be 6 levels of complexity that support its intent. Great. I got unstuck when I started to look at time span. So what's the time span of the most complex piece of work? And people don't like time span because they say you can't measure things in terms of how long it takes to see the results in a digital world, in a world where it's faster, quicker, more things are happening. So how do you use time span? So I redrew the organization based on time span. And you know there's nothing there that goes over 5 years. There's no strategy, there's no planning that goes over 5 years. Lots of detailed complexity, digital, customer-focused, connecting to the customer, gearing the organization up as one. But in terms of long-term planning, it's not there. So it just drops down in complexity if you use the old measure. So big, 20,000 employees, 10 countries, suddenly it becomes small when you apply the time span. So that interested me. I was very fortunate that I have been involved in an organization that's small but it's big. So let me explain that. And I'm going to use an example. I'm going to use an example of one of my favorites. I've got a t-shirt, put it on especially for today. SpaceX. So we did the level of work capability of Elon Musk. And Elon Musk is an exceptional people. Now some of you might not know our work, but we have 3 strands in our work. We have structure based on complexity, increasing ambiguity and uncertainty. We look at people's ability to handle complexity and uncertainty, so we match the right person to the right role, so there's a sense of flow and they're connected and they want to come to work and they love coming to work. And we look at leadership, and there are definite principles, scientific principles of how to lead. And they're all common sense, they're not something new. So Elon Musk, to me, in definitions, if I look at the complexity of SpaceX and his other companies, which I'll talk about now, is a single unified system. It's what we call a level 5 company. But its impact is huge. So go back a little second. Here we've got small is big. I mean, it employs 4,500 people. But its impact across industries is huge. Elon Musk is quite an exceptional person. He's the only person that we know of in the Guinness Book of Records who's created 3 different multi-billion-dollar businesses. He thinks differently, he acts differently. People say he can outthink, outmaneuver, outplan almost anyone. So he's on a trajectory of a growth curve, and if you know our models, and some of you might and some of you might not, he would be equivalent to what we'd say is a low 9. And basically that's really, really, really rare. So at the age of between 20 and 30, he was comfortable with strategic development complexity, holding mental models, creating mental models. He wanted to create an online bank, a different bank, something that had never been done before. And he took his ideas to the Nova Scotia Bank, the Bank of Canada, and they said, no, you're a young upstart, you don't know anything. So he came to regard bankers as being really dumb. He said he wanted a banking license to create an online bank, which he did. He became PayPal, and he sold that at the age of 29. He then took his money and he chose industries that were moribund. And he wanted to do space. And space was run by a couple of really slow, bureaucratic, really expensive, $230 million for one launch. And he said he wants to revolutionize this. So he wanted to get rockets, he wanted to go to Mars, he wanted to set a colony up in Mars. That was his ambition. And he realized he had to change the industry so you could have reusable spaceships. I'm not going to dwell on this too long, but it's just the background by how small is big. And the story I want to tell is he went across to Russia to go and buy some Russian missiles, and they thought he, again, killed him with 32. So they gave him lots of schnapps and vodka and sent him back with an exorbitant price. And he was sitting on the plane and he said, you know, we can just build these things. And he worked out in his spreadsheet, he likes to go to the element of truth. We can build these spaceships cheaper with reusable parts at a fraction cost. So he did. And he built up SpaceX, which is now, it's got a 50-year vision to put people on the Mars. And he works with 10-year blocks. So here's this little company that's absolutely transformed the space industry. He did the same thing with electric cars, with the Tesla. He did the same thing with batteries. We live in an eco-village, and next year we go on to full solar power with a smart grid. New South Wales government gave us $1 million to put in the smart grid. Each house has got 3 kilowatts of power that feeds into the smart grid. His batteries are going to be used. He's revolutionized it. So every industry he's impacted, he has transformed. So suddenly here, small becomes big. Big impact, and the big companies have become small. No long-term strategies, not focused on what the future is going to be. So there's a whole tension between this unique value add and the time span. And people don't like time spans, and I'm becoming to think that time span is a really good measure of complexity. So Elon Musk is interesting, different, and he was recently, I think this month, he was at the World Governance Conference. And he did a talk. And it was a really sobering talk for governments. And his basic comment was, there's a whole lot of stuff coming at us. And the customer doesn't even know what that stuff is. So being customer-centric is going to be quite short-term because the customer's got no idea what's happening. And one of the things he talked about was the automation of transport. That you're not going to own private cars anymore. The whole system's going to be automated. You get organizations that are automating, they're getting rid of jobs. They are a brave new world, while at the same time the government's saying we need more jobs, we need more jobs. I saw Coca-Cola close down here yesterday. 160 jobs lost. They're going to invest $75 million in a plant in Queensland. They're not going to create any jobs, it's going to be automated. More and more the digital world is getting rid of jobs. Elon Musk in the talk to the governments of the world said, you're going to lose in the next 20 years between 15 and 30% of jobs as we know them today. So what's going to happen? Jobs are going to disappear. The new jobs are going to be highly skilled. They're going to be really difficult to get into. You know how competitive the job market is now? There's youngsters that just can't get work. So there's piecemeal work, there's no sense of meaning, and you know how important meaning is. And this is what he said. And I actually wrote it out laboriously with a piece of paper and a pen. So he said, I think universal basic income will be necessary. So people get paid just to live. And they're trying this out in Sweden, they're trying it out in Kenya. So they call it a basic income. But the much harder challenge is how will people then have meaning? Work gives meaning. We know that from the work we do, that capability strand. People actualize when they've got work that they feel they're doing something that's contributing, where they feel recognized and they feel rewarded. So what happens if there's no meaning? A lot of people derive meaning from their employment. If you're not needed, what is the meaning? Do you feel useful? That is a much harder problem to deal with. How do we ensure the future is a future we want, that we still like? You can see his capability. He's 43 years old, 45 years old, and he's working at that revealing the future that's already here. So he's saying to governments, wake up. Business is getting rid of jobs, and you're saying we need more jobs because we're on a market capitalism growth treadmill. We've got to have more jobs, we've got to keep growing. It's not there. There's no growth left in the system. The system's bankrupt. That's why I say we're coming to one of the biggest changes out. We're going to fundamentally re-engineer the way that society exists in the next 50 years. So I want to just talk a little bit about this idea of work's going to disappear. Work is disappearing now as we look at it. You just read the papers, people can't afford houses anymore, cars are disappearing. The whole structure that industrial society or information society is disappearing. Different meaning. There's going to be a huge re-engineering of education in the future because we can't just produce more consumers when there's not work to employ them. So we need to. So my comment here, my closing comment to local government and to business. Local government, you need to do something different. The old model is dying, and trying to do more of the same harder is not going to work. You need to go and experiment with something different. City of Bristol, there's a number of areas in Europe that are trying, they're running this program called the Eco Living Design Program, which takes people who are unemployed in contiguous blocks in urban areas and teaches them how to be resilient and self-sufficient. So there's a challenge. Create a different economy. There's a whole lot going on about transition economics, and I'll pass this around. And I know Adam tells me I've got 3 minutes left. So this is different type of money. This is local currencies that communities use. The two at the bottom here are German. They're called Steinthalers, and they actually devalue over time. So you can't hoard money. You've got to use it. So I'll pass them around. Those are, you pay GST on those currencies. Different way of working. The other thing I want to say to business. What does your corporate social responsibility programs look like? We're working with a company now that have got the most amazing outreach program that's about building value in the communities. And they have a program called Good Hoods, designing neighborhoods that are resilient. They don't know transition economics, they don't know transition communities, but we're educating them. So for businesses, how do you add value? And my last point I want to make is aging is a real issue. And I was very privileged to have a discussion with an aged care facility in Rotterdam called Humanitas Acropolis, which has just got a different model of operating. 6,000 people in 33 complexes and a waiting list of 3,000. All different ages together with medical care, and it connects to Gertrude, you know, the teal organization that's very flat, that's got nurses. So it's a brave new world. I could waffle on. But go back to your organization and have a look at how your unique value adds match to your time span. Think long term. Think about what's coming at us. So, at that note, thank you very much. Enjoy the day.